This is Mark South from the YouTube channel Therapy for the Heart, and today I'm here with Marian Calabro, and I'm very happy to have you here today.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Mm-hmm.
And you just finished the production of the play that you wrote, Fake Book, and it finished at the Venus New York Theater Festival. And in my opinion, it was a success.
Thank you.
Yeah, very well done play. And I was interested, how did you get connected to that particular theater?
Through David Morgan, who directed the Fake Book. David lives in the neighborhood in near the Cabrini Rep Theater at 190th Street and Fort Washington Avenue, and David knew the artistic director Franco Moschetti. They live in the same building, and David goes to a lot of the weekend events there, and he said, "They're having this festival, you should send your plays out, send it there." And I did.
Oh, he encouraged you very strongly. Huh?
Very strongly, yeah.
So, how did it all start with writing? Do you recall when it started and when you became interested in writing?
I can't remember a time I wasn't interested in words. I read very early, and to me, writing is the flip side of reading. So
You were an avid reader.
I was a very avid reader as a child. I read and read and read. I mean, that's how I learned about the world. You know, I lived in northern New Jersey in an urban area, but in a small town, and yeah, I read a lot. And I love newspapers. We always had 3 newspapers in the house, so I read about what was going on. And writing, I just sort of grew out of that naturally, I think.
Why plays? Unless you've written other things too, you might have. I don't know that much about what you've written, but this is a play. So
This is a play.
Yeah.
Actually, plays are kind of the caboose of my train set of writing, because I write mostly in other genres. I write mainly nonfiction history for a number of audiences ranging from young adults to business clients. I write a lot of poetry. I love poetry for the language. I also like writing it because it's short. And when you're pressed for time and you're writing poetry, you can finish a poem in an afternoon or an evening or a day.
Oh, that's right.
So it's instant gratification to that extent.
You like instant gratification.
Well, when I'm busy, you know, working on something very long form, it's nice to mix in the short form.
I like it also.
Yeah. And
Can't have it as much as I want.
no, well, poetry I enjoy, and but I've always loved plays, and I wrote them in high school and college, and then and I studied theater at that time, worked in summer stock, and
Oh, you acted.
I acted a little bit.
Oh.
I was never a good actor, and still, I can't act my way out of a paper bag, but I really admire actors. Then I got involved in other things. I went into book publishing as a career, and then segued to freelance writing and began writing nonfiction history books and doing other kinds of freelance writing. But I always went to the theater. We always had actors as friends, and I don't know, about 5 to 10 years ago, I just sort of jumped back into playwriting for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I got involved in a playwriting workshop led by Stuart Spencer, who now teaches at Sarah Lawrence and is also the author of the Playwright's Guidebook. It's a book that's widely used in colleges. And in Stuart's workshop, I just began tackling a number of different kinds, 10-minute plays, which are a genre of their own, up to full-length plays. The Fake Book is kind of in the middle. It's about 35, 40 minutes, one act.
Where did you find the inspiration to write Fake Book?
I honestly do not remember. I think I'd have to go back to my journals of that time and see if there's a reference to it. I don't remember whether it came out of an exercise in Stuart's workshop or what. I remember rewriting it. I remember adding to it, but I don't remember what made me sit down and actually write that play. It's kind of interesting. I'll have to.
What is a fake book?
Fake book is a term that's used in music, particularly in jazz. It's a collection of lead sheets with just the melody line and chords that enables the musician to fake the song. And they were passed around a lot in my father's generation. He was a jazz musician. And the idea was you took them with you to a gig, and if you didn't know the tune off the top of your head, you'd take out your fake book. And they were called fake because they weren't real sheet music. They were either arrangements that you did yourself or that got handed around from musician to musician. They still exist. You know, I have my father's old fake book. I have fake books I've done of my own material, that kind of thing.
So creativity runs in your family in terms of artistic.
Well, yeah, my father was certainly a wonderful musician, yeah.
What did he play?
He played jazz piano, jazz violin, and jazz guitar.
Oh, jazz man.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, if you can do this in a nutshell, what is Facebook? I know I was going to say Facebook along the line in this interview, so there it is.
Okay.
But in a nutshell, what is it about?
The plot is involves a woman in her mid-40s, Cynthia, coming back to the home of Marty, who was her best friend and soulmate in high school. And the house is being closed up for sale. And as the play begins, Cynthia walks in, and in the house is Marty's brother, younger brother named Robert. She remembers him as Bobby. And the action takes off from there. It all takes place in real time. And in a way, it's a memory play, but it's also a confrontation play. They're confronting their younger selves, and they're confronting some conflicts that Cynthia had with Robert's family.
Thank you. Is there a message at all? Not that you should have had a message for theatergoers to take away from this play after they saw it, but was there a message that you had in mind or no?
I don't try to put messages into what I write. I'd rather put the work out there and let the reader or the viewer take a message away.
True artist, that's what I think, because I think that's the way many artists think about it. But
I will say, it was such an interesting question, Mark. It made me realize something that I hadn't realized until I was coming down here on the subway today, which is, I think everything that a writer writes has a message for the writer in it somewhere. And
that's an interesting.
Yeah, we have to think about that one a little more, don't we? I think somehow this play, which I wrote a few years ago and then took out this year to send to the Venus Festival, did a little more rewriting on it, not too much. When I look back at it, I think the message in there for me is what Robert says to Cynthia after she sings her songs towards the end of the play. He says, "Those songs are dinosaurs. You want my advice? Start over on some new ones." I think that was the message for me.
Well, what was that message then?
Well, it was, I guess the play had its action on me the same way it did on Cynthia, which was, you've worked through this part of your past, time to move on.
I see. Yeah, that was a sort of a sharp attack that he had on her.
Yeah, there were a lot of sharp attacks going back and forth in this play, yeah.
So writing is often, as you know, autobiographical. This doesn't mean that your piece had to be, but did you think about that question and did you come up with something or not about yourself in terms of the play that you wrote?
I say this often to the writers who come to my creative writing workshops. And it's a piece, it's something that was said to me back in college by my boyfriend at the time, who went on to become a novelist. And it stuck with me, and it still makes sense. He called it the formula, or I call it the formula. I think every piece of fiction is 1/3 comes out of the writer's life, 1/3 out of the writer's friends and family, and 1/3 totally made up. And the writer mixes all of that up and puts it out there. And in this play, that formula or equation breaks down pretty neatly in that there is a lot of the 15-year-old me and Cynthia, and there's a little bit of the age 40-something me and Cynthia. The unseen character Marty is the hybrid of a lot of friends that I've had over the years and people I've known. Some of the other unseen characters, like the parents and Gloria and a few others, are also hybrids. And then Robert is totally made up. So, and what really was interesting to me as part of the Venus process and having people in the audience ask me questions about the play, they felt Robert was the most real, and yet he was the one I'd made up from
Isn't
scratch.
that something?
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
You said before about moving on from dinosaurs. Could I ask you that personal question? Is there what were you moving on from in terms of writing this? What was the message to you about what dinosaurs that you had to move on from? Or did I understand your answer correctly?
No, I think you understood it.
Did you want to say what that was or not?
No, I think in general, somebody like me who writes history, sometimes you can get too invested in the past. You know, you just need to let some things go.
So you didn't mean the past particularly like your childhood past?
No.
No, just the past. Just get moving on and time to do something new and different.
Right, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. So were you involved in the production at all?
Yeah, I was at most of the rehearsals. We rehearsed on weekends because we all had day jobs. And it was just, amazing to listen to the actors breathe life into the words. That, Stuart kept telling us that in the workshop. Have actors read your work, and we do table readings in the workshop. But there were other playwrights, and we weren't actors. But it makes such a difference to really hear the words spoken. So I edited some of the lines that I thought were, quote unquote well written, but they were a little too flowery, or they didn't sit well on the, in the delivery. Mm-hmm. And then in one aspect, towards the end of the play, the actors played it beautifully. I felt they got what I was doing, but at that point in the play, I wanted to dial back on Cynthia's feelings. And so I had them improv.
Which feelings did you want to dial back on?
She still had a little bit of a kind of gotcha attitude towards Robert, and this was after the ice had melted between them in the play. So I had them improv, and excuse me, what they came up with, they just sort of went out to here, and it was great. And I said, all we need is from here to here. So I just rewrote a few lines, and it worked perfectly.
Oh, so you did some direction.
Well, I don't know if that was direction.
As far as direction, I remember when I interviewed Jerry and Lisa and David Morgan together, and I was asking them about their work together. And one of the things, of course, with the play is everything is a lot about dialogue and the emotions. To what I feel, that's the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think you probably would agree with that. That's a very important aspect of the play, and those emotions come through. But Lisa said that David had to encourage her to be more angry.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, yes, yeah, that's right.
And I remember I asked her, well, is that part of you? I asked her if I could ask her a personal question, and then she said, sure. And she said, I said, is that part of your character, that it's hard for you to be angry? And she says, no, just ask my friends.
I didn't hear that. I want to watch. I want to see that clip. Yeah.
Yeah. So,